Welcome to Mack-n-Cheeze Music Podcast with your hosts, Brian DeHart.
Welcome back to Mack-n-Cheeze Music Podcast. We want to extend a big thank you to our listenership. We're now being heard in 6 countries.
What did you say?
That's right, Bruno. And one of the reasons is because we have such great and interesting guests. On today's episode, our guest is Evan Kolpak, co-founder and lead engineer at the M.O.B recording studio here in Seattle, Washington.
The dude abides.
Evan's going to give us a brief history of the recording studio and the components that make it what it is.
The rug ties the studio together.
We're going to find out there's a lot more than that. Take it away, Bruno.
You ain't heard nothing yet.
I tell you what, man, the Logic Pro has just been fabulous for me, especially in the applications I'm using them. Like that Focusrite with the right microphone, it sounds totally pro. That's $179 unit.
Dude, they've come a long way with technology.
It's
with
just
these things.
crazy, yeah. Hey, you probably can't hear me over there, which is fine, but yeah. That's good. Yeah, and that thing is surprising, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is just totally, works great for this application.
Yeah, man, technology is amazing. The links that they've gone to in the past little while, and a lot of it's a result of miniaturization and cheapenization. Everything's getting so fucking cheap,
Yeah.
You can do great engineering stuff without a lot of expensive components.
So, hey, everybody, this is Brian at Mack-n-Cheeze. Today's guest is, and correct me if I think I have a friend whose last name is Pulchowski, and I always want to say Evan Pulchowski, but it's Evan Kolpak, correct?
Kolpak.
Kolpak.
Yeah, I've been called worse, man. It's all good.
I don't know why I can't get that right. I've only known you 3 years.
All good. Again, been called worse. It works, man. I've heard that it's Ukrainian, and it was originally Kolpaccio.
Okay.
And when my Ukrainian relatives moved here, they thought that Kolpak would sound more American, and I don't know what they were smoking to think that. Kolpak, not the most American sounding name, but... Yeah.
All right. So one of the reasons that I've got Evan on today is because he's the lead engineer at the M.O.B recording studio here in Seattle, Washington. And I got to tell you something, man. This guy is a virtual cornucopia of technical information. He's got a great set of ears. He's a great musician. He's a great songwriter. And as you will hear, he is absolutely expert in his field. Was that a good enough handle to start?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great, that was on par with the Tom Ballou intro, man. It was excellent.
Well, thank you very much. That was very kind of you.
You're welcome very much.
Well, that's the podcast for today.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
So let's just start with a little bit of history. What was the transformation for you? What got you into this?
By this, you mean like recording and this technical nerdy shit?
Yeah.
By the way, I can swear on your podcast, right?
It's a podcast. Yeah, of course you can.
Fuck yeah. All right. It's going to be really hard not to. So...
we interview the person, not my concept of what a person what I think a person should behave.
Not the politically correct dichotomy of the day. Yeah, man. So what got me into it was really just doing music, man. I've always had a love of music, and it's something that kind of, I feel it's like an outlet, like it would keep me sane, like probably a lot of musicians. I'm a little fucking quirky and weird, and music was kind of like a steam valve, like a valve for that. And, if I would go too long without doing music, you could feel it's kind of welling up, and you would just get kind of anxious and jaded and
As
depressed.
opposed to,
I don't know.
To now?
Some levity, some kind of peace with the world, and it was weird whether the music was angry or happy,
right,
or, depressing or inspirational, whatever the music was, as long as you were just doing music, even if it's just practicing scales, man, it would always just make me feel better. Maybe like meditation or something like that. People are into that stuff. And so in doing music, I started writing songs, of course, as one does, and then I wanted the songs to sound a certain way. And at the time, in the 90s, digital recording was just starting to become a thing, and I couldn't afford any of that stuff, but I had some old like tape equipment, so I had like literally like cassette tapes, like boom boxes and shit from the 80s and 90s. And so I started off really early, just like, oh, I've got this song, I want to record this song. And I didn't know anything about microphones or tapes. I'm just like, I have this recording device here, because I used to bootleg stuff off the radio. I remember listening to the end 107.7 and bootlegging stuff off there. So I knew the concept that like it can record sound. So I started recording literally with pots and pans in my parents' dining room, and electric guitar and whatever shitty amp I had.
How old were you?
I was probably 15 or 16 or something.
Pots and pans were your drums? Is that what
That was the drums. Yeah, man. Yeah, the idea was that the pots themselves would be the drums and kind of playing with my hands, and then the lids for the drums were the cymbals. And as you can imagine, it didn't quite yield the amazing wall of sound that I was going for. I wanted to be Nirvana and have this amazing, rock trio sound, and much to my surprise, it didn't work out.
Yeah, well, at least you started sampling at a young age.
Yeah, dude, I wish I could find those tapes, man. I wish I could go, dig through my parents, and maybe, one day I will. They probably exist somewhere at my parents' house in some, even further degraded form than their original incarnation, but it would be so fun to find those. But, so I went from that point to like, okay, I clearly need to upgrade my setup a little bit, and that's how it starts, man. I think as anybody knows, it's like you realize the deficit in what you're doing. It's like, oh, well, I need to upgrade this, and then it's like, oh, well, I'm still not there. I need to upgrade it. I need to upgrade that, and then as your tastes also develop, it's like I kind of grew. I don't want to say beyond. There's a huge place in my heart for that, good rock music, punk rock. I fucking love. It's been like a huge part of my life. Punk rock music and punk rock ethos, and some of the outcroppings of punk rock, including the 90s quote unquote alternative, quote unquote grunge scene or whatever.
Yeah.
But, to say that my musical taste grew into things like, Motown, soul. I love flamenco music. I went through a flamenco phase, old school country, folk, just all types of music got broadened out. And then from that angle, it's like you need more than even just like, a good drum set and a few good microphones to do that. To really faithfully do that music justice, if you want to write songs in that vein and record songs in that vein, you need to not only obviously have a good understanding of the music, a passion of the music, love the music, and kind of know it on some ephemeral level, but you also, I hesitate to say you need the gear, but it's very helpful to have the gear, to have, if you want to record old school vintage sound and shit from the 60s, it's really tough to do without that equipment.
Dude, that's what lo-fi is for, right?
Yeah, it's the lo-fi plugin. Yeah, they got that thing.
Yeah.
Man, I remember I used to tell bands, I started recording bands in my parents' basement with some of this newfangled digital audio recording equipment in the 90s. And I used to tell them, oh yeah, I can, if you want that lo-fi tape sound, yeah, I got plugins, I can get you that sound. And I was very confident in my abilities to manipulate the EQ and the sound, and I figured I could get it. Dude, I mean, I know the technology has come a long way. UA is doing some amazing stuff to that end, but I have yet to hear anything that even,
you cannot capture the air. There's no way to capture the air.
Yeah, and the warmth of the distortion, the natural sound of the distortion, and the just the grit and yeah, the air, the warmness of the low end, just so many things about it. Like when you hear real tape through some good speakers, it's there. And yeah, that extends to so many other things, like a real, a vintage drum set with vintage cymbals versus a modern one. It's just sound is totally different, and you can try to sample it and do all this stuff, but and then the rooms too. Like you will be hard pressed to record in a dry, dead sounding room and apply some of the best convolution, lexicon reverbs to it, and really make it genuinely react in the way that it does recording in a real room. Of course, you have more flexibility over what the room is, and you can choose more things, but there's something to be said about working within the room you have. You say, this is the room I've got. I'm going to, it almost becomes like a part of the instrument or like an aspect of the instrument, in as much as like, the string choice on your guitar or the type of pick that you choose to use or the type of amp. It's like the room becomes a component of what you're doing, and you just kind of work around it. You don't try to fight the strings that are on your guitar and say, oh, these are too bright or whatever. When you really get in tune with your instrument and what you're doing, it just becomes a part of the performance. So anyway, all these things kind of culminated just over years and years and years. It just I have all these songs in my head, all these things I'm hearing all the time, and they're playing in my head like a fucking radio, man. Like a song that gets stuck in your head, that's just stuck in your head for weeks, and you can't get it out of your head. And for me, it's like the only way to get this stuff out of my head and to keep me sane and not to just have these things hamster wheeling and rolling around all the time is to record them. And it's almost like releasing them out into the world. It's like I can let this go now. Once I get it recorded and I hear it playing back through the monitors, in some way that is close enough or that's damn similar to what's playing in my head, or sometimes it even turns out better than what I'm hearing in my head. When I do that, then it's like this release. It's like, okay, I can let this go now. I've got it out into the world. So for the very long answer to your question, I think that's what got me to this point was just writing songs and then going down this long rabbit hole of like, how do I keep myself sane and get these out of my fucking head into the world?
Yeah, that makes sense as far as like the songwriting and stuff is concerned, and part of the journey. What got you intrigued in all this technical aspect? I mean, you have built this studio from top to bottom, the audio, the video connections, the Ethernet cable, the whole thing. So, I mean, what started you on that path?
Lack of money, I would say. Like, again, I had all this like shit that I wanted to do. I wanted to do this wide-ranging variety of music and different styles and legitimately pull this shit off. And again, to do that, if I do use the word need, take that with a grain of salt. But let's just say you need to have this certain type of microphone, this certain type of preamp to really genuinely pull it off and, again, do the stuff justice.
You're preaching to the choir here, brother.
You know it, man. I think anybody who's really gone down this rabbit hole knows this shit. Like, you can't just do everything with an SM57, especially if you want to do the style justice. You want to do the originators justice. You want, So, I mean, shit, man. Some of this gear, we're looking around here. We don't have video going on here, but there's a lot of fancy pants fucking gear around here.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and it ain't cheap, man. The first, so there's, I think you have a picture that you took here that's probably going to go on the blog of an auto locator for an MCI Sony tape machine. The first tape machine that I got when I really decided, like, I want to chase after this Motown sound or maybe more accurately, just the sound of pop music in the 1960s, soulful pop music in the 1960s. So Stax, Motown, Muscle Shoals, and a lot of the quote unquote oldies shit.
Right.
I was like, I need to get myself a good, multi-track tape machine. I found this shit on Craigslist. It was $450 for a 1-inch 8-track MCI JH110, and I'm like, man, $450. That's a great deal, right? Like, I bet it needs some work, but I'm pretty handy. I bet I can fix it up. And I did not know what I was getting myself into. And at the time, I also did not understand the sunk cost fallacy all that well. Otherwise, I probably would have done the seemingly logical thing and just cut my losses and ditched that thing. But the way I looked at it is, when I got this thing and I started doing some work on it and I couldn't get it operational, I started thinking, shit, I already sunk $450 in 2 weeks of time into this thing and all this work. I can't turn back now.
What am I doing for the next year?
Yeah, just pretty much it, man. I remember going on vacation with my family and my girlfriend at the time, I think she got tired of my shit after a while. But I literally took a bag full, a Safeway bag full of circuit boards from that machine. I took out all the motherboard, all the daughter boards, all the channel cards, the repro card, the audio IO card, every PCB in that fucking machine I took out, and I had relegated myself to suck the solder from every Molex connector, female Molex or male Molex sticking out of the boards, and then resolder every single point. And I took that with me to Lake Chelan and did that. And I think everybody thought I was fucking insane. I'm sitting there with, magnifying glass lenses and lights on my head and doing all this stuff. And, yeah, man, that was like a christening into the, the tech world. And when you start doing this stuff, you inherently have to start measuring voltages. You got to get out a multimeter and say, does this wire terminate where I think it terminates? So it starts very simple, just the little beep, beep on a multimeter that I think most people are familiar with. And then that can get you pretty far, just that alone. But then it's like, well, you should learn about voltages. You should learn about AC and DC voltages so you can say, not only does this wire terminate, does it actually have what I think that it should have on it, which is usually voltage of some type. And then, again, it leads down a rabbit hole where I don't have money to hire a tech for $100 an hour to wire all this stuff up and solve these problems. So then you start getting into like, I should probably learn Ohm's law and learn how the relationship between voltage and amperage and resistance, and how this all plays into what are all these little components. What do resistors do? What do capacitors do? What are these different ICs? How do they behave? And so in doing that, I was able to get a lot of the gear that I always wanted, and for cheap or free, and fix it up or build it myself. A lot of DIY 500 series modules, and
we were going to talk about those.
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, and so that's, again, it was just a rabbit hole, man, and it really just started on just like, I want to make music, and that's what we were just talking about upstairs, man. Like, I cannot wait to really get down to brass tacks of actually do what the end goal here is, and to start making music.
Yeah, we got to pay bills first.
We do, yeah, for sure.
So the history of this place, you and Zach Vellet have been involved here for, 14 years? Is that what you've been?
Oh, man.
Is that how long you guys have been here, in and out?
It's something like that, yeah. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I originally was going to move into a place at the Rainer Brewery over there, which a lot of Seattle musician folks are probably familiar with. They when they shut down that brewery, a lot of it turned into like artist live work loft community. Our buddy Charlie owns the rehearsal spaces down beneath it. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there, and so I was originally going to move into this thing called the Siege 22 artist community, and I had a spot all reserved, and I was waiting for that to build out, and they were kind of dragging their feet. I think they ran into some issues, and so I was posted up at this house in the U District at the time, and I lived with my buddy Parker and a bunch of just punk rock kids. At the time we were in our early 20s, and it was an insane house. We it would set stuff on fire, and they had skateboarding obstacle courses set up, and there was like a little community living in a tree, and we had rope system pulling up beer, and it was a lot of fun, but it was
a musician in his 20s paradise.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, it was a real weird time. We were hanging out with like the Hollow Points. They had a fucking beach, like a fake beach, scene built in their backyard. So it was weird times, man. And it finally came to an end when I think somebody set an arcade game on fire, and the fire department showed up for like the ntth time, and they were like, all right, we mean business this time. We're finally, you guys are fucking finished. Somebody decided to put out the arcade fire, literal arcade fire with, a 5-gallon bucket that had some liquid in it. It was filled with paint. It was a bucket full of paint dumped onto an arcade fire, and that was the final straw. So we all got booted out of there, and which was all probably for the better. I was sleeping in a room, tiny little room, about the size of this control room, with 3 other dudes and a dog. I had a gun under my pillow. I would sleep with every night because there was some shit going on the side, which is a whole other story. But it was not a great situation to begin with, and I finally got tired of waiting for this Siege 22, these guys to finish up and get their act together. And this place popped up on Craigslist. And I thought, that looks pretty cool. I'll go check it out. And it was completely different than what you see now. This room that we're sitting in was a photo dark room, and they had one of those revolving doors on the door right there. So you go into the little revolver thing, and then you come in here. They had a sink over there for developing negatives and stuff. But it was cool. Like, they were still doing the kind of stuff that I wanted to do, just like productive, artsy, kind of DIY. Kind of underground, not mainstream establishment, studio and creative type stuff. So I was like, yep, this is cool. So I got it, and I got some friends on board. Parker ended up moving in here. He was one of the first folks with another dude, Nick Jarvlin, who was producing or at least engineering the Hollow Points at the time. My buddy Swirly Joe. I think Chris Zico and Zukas also moved in, I think. Anyway, we basically moved in here as a like a live work space, and for about 10 years this place was just it was crazy, man. It was just like a bunch of punk rockers and metal heads and fucking AvRat type folks and random people from Craigslist and a lot of colorful characters just living here and doing weird shit.
What are AvRats doing down here in Soto?
It was one of our friends from the U District, from that same time up in the U District, who he was homeless, and he was a cool cat, and we invited him to live on our couch for a while, and he ended up coming down here and like he was a very interesting cat. It was interesting times, and it was a lot of fun. I feel like it was a different period in my life, and I don't regret an instant of it, but yeah, man, like the studio that you see now is far different from then. It's completely different. It was January 1st, New Year's Eve. My ex-girlfriend and I moved to Hawaii, and I subleased this place out to a buddy of mine who was also doing music, similar stuff. Awesome fucking dude. And was, continuing the legacy of this place in the same way that I wanted to do it. And then we came back from, I came back from Hawaii, and long story short, the city started cracking down on people living here, effectively, is what happened. And so we decided to take the place back rather than just giving it up. And our business partner, Josh Menashe, who is a fucking amazing dude and is grown to be one of my favorite people in the world.
He's pretty great. Him and his wife, his family, it's awesome.
They're all absolutely amazing people. And
you hear that, Josh?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was for you, baby.
He was able to, Josh Menashe is I sometimes refer to him as Flashy Josh Menashe. He's a flashy dude wearing a bunch of jewelry. He's got, he's got a kind of a prestigious look and vibe about him. But he was able to walk into this place that was a warehouse in Soto, completely trashed from, over a decade of musicians living in here. It smelled literally like dog shit and piss. There were dead rats, dead mice everywhere. It was covered with garbage. It was disgusting. And he was able to walk into this place and was immediately just like, he saw the potential. He was like, this is amazing. We can do this. We can do that. And so
I remember the first night I met you.
Yeah.
You guys walked in and you were just covered in filth.
Yeah. Yep.
Dropping in to have Josh spend a couple $1,000 on you for dinner.
Oh yeah. I'm sure we were not the usual clientele that you guys get down there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all good.
Yeah, I was very self-conscious at first walking in there looking like that, and I think it was a long day of working down here. We're probably covered in drywall dust and spackling and fucking paint and filth. And Josh's like, we're going out to dinner. And I'd never been, this fancy place like this, and walking in there and got some weird looks, but man, we just felt like royalty. Well, that's maybe a topic for a whole other time, but I appreciated that immensely. And I think it was also a good kickoff. I think it was a good glimpse into your life is changing here. You're growing into a new stage in life where it's time to kind of leave the past behind. And again, there were great times. I don't regret an instant of it. It was awesome stuff, but that's what growth is all about, man. And
man, you come a long way in the last 10 years, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. come a long way and got a long way to go, man. It's we've got very big aspirations here, and I think we won't be disappointed if we don't meet those goals, but at the same time, we're absolutely steadfast that we will accomplish the things that we want to accomplish, you know.
So a mixing board is the heartbeat of the studio. So tell us about that mixing board, that console.
Yeah, so well, like I was saying earlier, man, I couldn't afford all the fancy pants stuff, but I want to have good things. So I looked at for doing analog recording. I don't know how familiar your listeners are with kind of the concept behind it, but I think a lot of folks now think digital recording, you can just, you know, take like a two-track audio interface or even a multi-track audio interface and just layer channels up.
Let's back up real quick about that. So digital recording is about ones and zeros.
Correct, yeah.
Analog recording is about input.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Is that
yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is that kind of ironically, in a digital system, there's an analog for a mixing console. So you could just layer up 96 channels inside of a DAW and mix them down, but you could record them one channel at a time. You know, you could, you know, in theory, if you had the processing power, you could do that on your phone, just one channel after the other, just layer them up to do 500 channels if you want to, and then you can mix all 500 channels down to a 2-channel mix right there in the box, as I say. But that's an analog for what happens in the actual analog world. In the actual analog world, to record a channel, you need it to, well, to simplify things, let's say to record a microphone, you need a microphone preamp to bump it up to the level that you need to. So you need, if you want to record 16 microphones, a drum set or something, you need 16 microphone preamps. It's also helpful to have the EQs and the routing facilities that go along with that so you can add effects and all that stuff. And without getting too deep into the technical shit, effectively, if you want to have the ability to mix 24 channels to a standard kind of 2-inch 24-channel tape machine, you need at minimum a 24-channel mixer that can take 24 channels in, not only from your recording sources. So you might not always be recording 24 channels of a band at a time. You might only be doing one channel at a time. But eventually those channels are going to stack up on the multi-track side of things so that you will have 24. So just to jump ahead, so let's say you stack up, you do what you need to do, and you end up with 24 channels of audio on your tape machine. Well, what are you going to do with that now? You need a 24-channel minimum mixer to take those channels into the mixer and mix them down to a bus, which then goes out to 2 channels and then goes to another tape machine to get your 2-track mix, your stereo mix. So this console here was a function of just needing to do that. Again, I say needing with a grain of salt, but wanting to do that and wanting to do it in a way that did justice to not only what I want to do here as a studio and the music that I'm writing, but also just the styles of the music that I want to pay homage to and try to recreate. And so to do that, you need some decent stuff, man. Like I just don't want to do it on a Mackie, Mackie 24/8 bus. Not that a lot of great records have been done on those, but when I listen to those records, I don't hear the same. I can often hear a great sounding record, but I don't hear the tonality and the qualities that I'm really ultimately shooting for. You need a good console to do that. And so you're usually looking at in the mid-range professional console, assuming that we can't all afford to have a API or Neve or SSL or Sphere or Quad 8 or something, you're probably looking at maybe Harrison or Trident.
Harrisons are great boards.
They're great. In fact, the one I had before this in this room was a Harrison.
I saw the components to that, right?
Yeah. It was a PP1, I believe. It was a post-production mixer.
Substation has a Harrison.
Yeah, dude, they're awesome, man. In fact, I think there's somebody selling a Harrison right now on this analog Facebook group, and it's more of a live mixer, but yeah, you can't go wrong. They're amazing.
Right. It's handmade out of Kentucky, man.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't know
that's
that.
where they're from.
Oh, holy shit. Yeah, I knew they're an American brand. But yeah, so you get and without going down the rabbit hole of the geeky stuff, usually the reason that these consoles sound good is, first off, great engineering. It's kind of like the music; it starts with the person that's creating it. In the mind of the person. So people like Rupert Neve, like the reason Neve sound great isn't because they use a certain type of op amp or whatever. It's because Rupert Neve is a genius engineer and designer who was able to design these circuits. So. But that said, pretty much all the great sounding consoles have some element of discrete components, and proper design and high quality components. So the potentiometers and the faders and the switches are Alps or Borns, pots, or military grade stuff, and good quality components that are also serviceable. So when a board gets to be this old, this is from the late 70s. Some of the cheaper kind of prosumer stuff just is effectively not worth trying to repair. The components are cheap. You're just going to break it even trying to take it apart. It's just, so you need to get an aspect of quality. And this thing is kind of a sleeper console. They didn't make many of them. There's this is in a way, it's kind of an offshoot of API, and some of the engineers that worked at API in the 70s and designed some of the classic API circuits, the 550 EQ and the 512 preamp, among others, left API and started their own company called Sound Workshop. And they built consoles and equipment that were not on the same quality level as API. They weren't trying to compete in that.
But it's still
realm.
legacy.
Yeah, it's still the circuits are very similar. What I've been told, and there's a lot of there's some mumbo jumbo around this stuff, and there's kind of some mystery, and there's a lot of NDAs, and people can't, and so. But what I've been told, and it seems legit from the circuits that I've looked at, is that the circuits on this are as close to API style circuits as they could get without violating intellectual property, and NDAs and stuff like that. So they're very well designed, mostly discrete circuits. Where they do use op amps, it's mostly 5534, 5532s for the main audio routes, which is similar to what they use in a lot of some of the best Neve consoles and the best SSL consoles use 5534s. They're not all discrete, and they use great components, and great sounding circuits, great sounding EQs, great sounding mostly discrete preamps, with mostly semi-discrete, I would call them, op amps, and some cool features like this full high resolution meter bridge that has the ability to act as a spectrum analyzer. I think it's a 24 band spectrum analyzer with the flip of a switch
On each channel strip?
Well, so what you can do is it will analyze the output of one of these buses, and I think it may be assignable. Let me take a look here. Analyzer or some intensity. No, I believe it just looks at the master, the main left-right mixdown bus, and it will look at that bus and display on your meters here the basically an RTA, a spectrum analyzer. So you can look at where, and there's a corresponding thing. So I'm actually going to get out the label maker and say 20 hertz, 40 hertz, 80, and make labels for all of these meters that correspond to what band they're representing. Yeah, so it had a lot of cool features, but the biggest, and it's well built. It's a beast. The frame is gnarly. I mean, fucking look at that aluminum. That's got to be 3/4 inch thick aluminum on the legs there.
Right.
It's just built like a monster, walnut sides. It's just a really nice top quality console, modular, easy to work on, readily available components. That's another thing that you want to look for in mixing console. If you're going down this rabbit hole, you should be careful about getting any piece of gear that has parts which are unobtainium, is called in kind of the geek world. Basically means there's some little proprietary component that if it goes out,
you're sunk.
You're fucked. Yeah, you're gonna have a tough time finding that thing. And usually, if you do find that thing, it's gonna cost an inordinate amount of money. It's just cost prohibitive. So this uses pretty much all standard off the shelf components. So there was a lot of reasons to choose this thing. One of the big factors being I got this thing for free 99, man. It was literally, I think the guy was asking $1,000 for it or something, and he wasn't having much luck selling it. It was all in pieces. It was pulled apart. It you know.
I remember when it came in. It was all in components, right? I mean,
it was a mess. Yeah. It was like that MCI. Apparently, I didn't learn my lesson from that MCI 1-inch machine.
Lesson? What's a lesson?
Yeah, what is that? Yeah, sunk cost fallacy. Yeah, what does that mean? Because this thing was an even bigger boat anchor and an even bigger project that I got myself into.
Boat anchor.
Oh man, it was dude. But fortunately, it wasn't a rusty boat anchor. I think, again, it might have been better if it was rusty. I maybe would have stayed away from it. But the guy, after asking $1,000, I think he came down. He basically was. I came out and took a look at it, and I at least knew from that project. I'm like, dude, this is countless hours of work to really get this thing up and running. I could go get a minimum wage job at McDonald's and put in the same amount of hours that it would take to get this console up and running. And with the money I make flipping burgers, I could probably go buy myself a brand new API,
Yeah, but the deal is you wouldn't have learned more. You learned a lot.
Yeah.
Putting this thing together.
For sure.
And it was good for your soul to do it.
It was, yeah. Yeah, exactly, man. Those two things. And also I feel like as far as future work goes, and I know it's going to need future work, I know this thing inside and out. I've got a lot of the schematics for this thing memorized. Like literally I know which ICs go where, how the signal flow works through the whole thing. If something were to happen to it, I could probably pin it down in a few minutes and get it back up and running. So whether that cost was worth the time I invested into it, which was it was a full-time job for about 6 months. If you include this patch bay, which is a whole story by itself. There's 7 96-point patch bays over there that we purchased from the Art Institute when it went out of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was...
You got a tape machine from the Art Institute too, didn't you?
That's where the JH24 came from.
Yeah.
Yep. Fortunately, this one is mostly working. It's going to need a little bit of love, but it's mostly in pretty good shape. But yeah, those patch bays were, 7 times 96, I don't know, somewhere around 800 patch points, each patch point having five conductors on the back, 3 for the balance connection, 2 for your normal, should you choose to wire it in. And I'd say over half of those connections are normaled down to another jack. So we took we desoldered all of the connections off of all 7 of those patch bays, snipped all the wires, restripped all the wires, tinned all the wires, labeled every single wire. Some wires for some of the Elco connectors and the two-shell, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, connectors back there are actually wired positive and negative for each which one is the hot and which one's cold. So everything's been gone through, wired, and that on its own was a bitch. Then the console itself had to be all taken apart. Everything cleaned, like an insane amount of cleaning. I ended up making a bath for these channel strips. And I don't know if you ever got to see that, but it was this weird, like, wooden frame.
I was just going to ask you, was the bath a solvent, or what did you use?
Well, originally I just started spraying, doing deoxit and CRC contact cleaner, my usual go-to stuff, spraying it in all the pots, spraying it in the faders and switches. And, dude, it was just not getting the job done. So I tried it a couple more times, and it was just not working. So I made a basically it was like you could take 2 of these channels and drop it down into this wooden frame that had a shower pan liner, like really, really thick rubber, really, I don't know how many mils, probably like 20 mil thick rubber, like bathtub in it that the 2 channels would drop into. And then I did the calculations on roughly how much isopropyl alcohol that would need to be bought to fill this bitch, but it was something like 3 gallons of isopropyl alcohol to fit in there with the channel strips. And then so you just sit the channel strips just like they were. You could think of it as like a little 2-channel sidecar mixer. It looked like a weird little 2-channel sidecar just sitting there, but they were fully immersed. The components on the inside were fully immersed in the alcohol, and then you would just let them sit there and work all, twist all the knobs, turn everything back and forth. What I really wanted to do to make the thing super badass was install on the outside of it some high frequency piezo elements, some ultrasonic piezo elements, and drive them with an amplifier, as we have many amplifiers around here, and I could actually in some software play into the alcohol bath ultrasonic frequencies and have them amplified and turn it into like an ultrasonic cleaner on top of that too, which would have been killer, man. That would have been over the top. But
you'd need a video on that just to show the process.
Oh yeah, it would, dude. I bet it would be so cool. In one of these days, I still would like to do something like that. But that would just talk about going down a rabbit hole, man. At that point, you're just shaving a yak, So I didn't end up going that far, but anyway, suffice it to say, it was a lot of work, man. Cleaning these things, and then putting it all back together. Still had major problems, so I had to take it all back apart again, and decided that to start, address each of the problems one at a time. So just start with channel 1, start with the the input, line input, or mic input, or whatever. Check things off the list. And after I got to about channel 4 or 5, I realized most of the problems that I was having were related to bad capacitors. Started measuring some capacitors, and 8 or 9 out of 10 capacitors I measured in this were out of spec, and far out of spec, like way out of spec, very high ESR, and so I decided, well, it sucks, but this thing needs to be recapped. And at that point, I became aware of the sunk cost fallacy. And I remember talking to Josh after we'd put in all this time into the patch bay and all the cleaning and all this work. And I remember talking to Josh and trying to explain to him, the wartime, they didn't die in vain fallacy. It's like, yeah, we have invested a lot into this console, but that doesn't mean it's an excuse to invest more time. Like, I could spend the time I could start to see going forward to recap this whole thing and then fix the issues that arose after it. We're going to take just probably hundreds of hours, which it did. So we considered just ditching it, man, and just buying another console because it was just so much fucking work. But we also decided that we just really liked this console, and it was going to be an amazing sounding console, and then we'd have a great story. We'd know it like the back of our hands, and our blood, sweat, and tears would go into this thing.
Right.
So by the time it was done, it's like, that's really a part of us, and you have kind of a connection to it. So we decided to move forward, and it was months and months of recapping, and then the recap fixed a lot of issues, but there were still, it only crossed off about 70 or 80% of the problems that were happening. There were still just tons of issues all up and down the thing, power supply, grounding issues, a lot of bad switches or pots, stray voltages, ghost voltages leaking around, a couple caps with reverse polarity, a ton of bad ICs. I ended up buying a whole other mixing console, a soundtracks mixing console. It's just a parts console.
Yeah, I figured you were cannibalizing something to get this done.
Yeah, the faders that are in this console now, I bypassed the VCAs that were originally in it for an automation computer, and salvaged the Alps faders out of that console. So it's all analog, real analog faders now. The 5532 and 5534 ICs are ripped out of that soundtracks, and I probably replaced 70 or 80 ICs in this thing. Like, man, TL071s and 074s, 5532s, 34s. I hope that it doesn't chew through ICs like that in the future. I hope it was just a function of like bad power supplies and bad caps and
lack of use and age.
That
probably
could do it. Yeah.
I mean, you've got a Frankenboard now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's
Mary Shelley would be proud.
It's mostly stock, but again, the automation computer ripped out. Well, yeah, I guess in a way it is, because the VCA's bypass, and the automation computer ripped out. It's got a vastly upgraded patch bay. And one of the next things I want to do with this baby is I'm going to get some channel strips that are transformer balanced. They made a model. This is a Series 40. They also made a 1600 that was basically the same exact thing, although it was missing. It only had 4 aux buses instead of 8, and it was transformer balanced instead of IC balanced. And some of the early ones, they were still. In fact, this one has API transformers on the outputs. So they were still using a lot of API parts.
That's cool. Yeah,
it's very cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna get 8 channels of these 1600s and put them in here for a little different flavor. But then you can also, I don't want to say upgrade, but you can get different, newer, better spec'd transamp modules for these. Are transamp preamps. These Valley People's transamp pre's, and they kind of redesigned them. There's a company called Sonic Imagery that makes like a drop-in retrofit that supposedly sounds cleaner, newer, more modern. And then this guy Jim Williams, who was kind of a genius audio engineer, designs a lot of circuits, and he's like the king of clean, like low noise, low distortion, low THD, perfect crystal clear audio, clean wire gain type of shit. He has some suggestions for mods to, instead of 5534s, use I don't know, Burr Brown or OPA or analog devices, quote unquote upgraded op amps. So I do kind of want to hot rod a few of these channels to get a more modern, clean sound, because I think that'll be fun. But we have played around with it since we got it fully functional. Which I should mention, I was able to get this thing 34 out of 36 channels working, all the buses working. The reason that this console is great for the 24-track tape machine that's in there is that it actually has 24 buses, which is, it has 32. Yeah, 32 buses, which is really overkill. You don't need that many to track out to a tape machine. You could use subgroups or 8 buses.
of course, right.
Yeah, you can get the job done, but it's nice to be able to, I could literally assign each one of these channels or each number of channels to a bus and have it go out there. So I could have the first 8 channels assigned to bus 1, and they they bust down to one bus. And so you can really get a massive amount of routing and flexibility out of this thing. All the buses are working. All the EQs and all bands are working, with the exception of a few funky little things on certain parts of the EQ. It's all been calibrated. Went through calibrated every input, output. Yeah, man, we ran some audio through it, and it's got a beautiful sound, man. I think we haven't tracked a full band with it, done any full mixes on it yet, but I can tell just from plugging in an SM7 and a couple condenser mics, it has exactly the sound I was hoping it would. It's very similar to the design of a lot of MCI consoles from the same time period, the 70s. I think it's similar to the 400 and 500 series MCI consoles, which also use transamp preamps, 5534s, similar topology. And if you look up the number of amazing records, very vibey, warm sounding records that were cut on MCI consoles in the 70s, it's amazing, man. Everything from Eric Clapton to ABBA to AC/DC to a bunch of the disco shit, the Bee Gees, and the list is absolutely amazing. And these are such a similar console to those MCIs. In ways, I think they're better than the MCI consoles. They don't suffer from the same Molex problems that a lot of the MCIs had. So anyway, man, I could go on with this shit for fucking hours, but that's a pretty good rundown.
That's a pretty good rundown. Yeah. So with your 500 series side processors you have on the side, could you talk about those for a little bit?
Dude, for sure, man. Yeah, so the first 500 series I got were those Cappy VP28s.
Which you recommend big time.
Oh, man, dude. Yeah. I think if I had Desert Island preamps, those would probably be them. At least right now. I haven't got a chance to hear this GML, and I'm really interested in how that thing sounds. I bet it's also going to sound amazing. But, so they're DIY jobs, and I think Cappy now is offering them as, fully built out. But, at least back then they were just selling them as kits, and you put them all together, and they are...
I took a look. It looks like they're still kits.
Yeah, they definitely still sell kits, but I think they're also offering them as fully built. And I know even back when I bought them, there were people that would build them and sell them as
Right, because there's people like me out there who don't want to put in the work.
yeah, and it's it's a decent amount of work, but really it's like baking a cake, man. You just follow the recipe to a T, and they have an instruction manual complete with pictures and very detailed descriptions of how you do everything. And as long as you're handy with a soldering iron,
there's that.
Yeah.
The guy who got D in metal shop.
Yeah,
Handy with the soldering iron.
Yep. Well, yeah, so maybe that would be a bit prohibitive there, but anybody who is handy with the soldering iron, they're not tough to make, and it's rewarding. You can get them done in an afternoon, a few hours, and if you mess up, there's a lot of community support online that'll walk you through, either on groupdiy.com, which is a great site, or I think Jeff Steiger from Cappy is a badass motherfucker. That dude is cool as hell, amazing dude. He moved to Nashville. He's got an amazing studio there. He's just constantly putting out top-notch gear that really, shit, blows API out of the water. Like, it's almost objectively like you listen to a 312 or 512 or next to one of his a VP28 or his Wally Hyder preamps, or really any of hese preamps. Against their comparable API version. The same goes for EQs, the 550 versus his LC Love Child EQs and his different versions of the different API circuits, and he just blows them out of the water every time. It's almost like it's not even a fair fight. So yeah, man, those things just sound amazing. They're one of those preamps that manages to be clean. I usually like vibey sound and stuff. I'm not a big fan of like super clean, like Millennia and SSL. This sounds very often can be sterile or sound just kind of boring to me. I like really vibey.
You like the color.
The coloration, yeah, the warm dark, the navy type of stuff, and but those things tend to they are punchy. They are relatively low noise. They represent very accurately what comes into them, but they also have this extra oomph to them, this extra vibe that they impart that doesn't do any. It doesn't. It just seems to complement everything really well. I don't know. It's really tough to describe. But anybody who's used that kind of stuff will know what I'm talking about. It's just they do something that's just kind of magical to the signal without without messing with it too much. My favorite, the Analog All-Stars EQP15S1, I think, whatever, the Analog All-Stars Pultec EQ right next to it. It's also an amazing EQ. That's also a DIY job, and it's very complicated to use. It's kind of packed in tightly there in that small little space. It's kind of for a Pultec EQ, I think they're stretching the limits of what can be done with 500 series. And then the other ones next to it, that Lindell Audio is just cheap, not DIY. It's just cheap Chinese made, but they make. It's also a Pultec style EQ. Not very many frequency points, but dude, for the money, those little things, all of the Lindell Audio stuff is in the $200-ish range, as far as I know.
That's a great price.
It's a great price, and dude, they sound killer. They sound really, really good. They almost sound as good as that Analog All-Stars. Arguably, they sound, it's just, nitpicking the differences in tone. The only downside is they don't have as many EQ frequency points. So I think you have 3 or 4 frequency points on each band.
You can do that post though, right?
You can do a post, yeah. But again, if you're in the analog world, you can do stuff in post, but it starts getting more complicated.
Right.
Fortunately, with the console here, EQ is not as not as much of an issue because there's EQs on every channel.
Well, you're running DAW too on top of this board,
Totally,
right? Yeah.
Most of the time, as much as like I would like the nostalgia of working fully in the analog world, and I'm sure we'll do that on some records, it's not very tenable these days. Like I think even most people who say that, you know, oh, this was recorded to tape and mixed to tape, and it's all done in analog, dude.
It's still not the process.
Yeah, I bet 99% of those producers are at least going to digital. It is just so fucking convenient, and not only just for mixing, processing, saving money, compartmentalization, convenience, but just for recalling a session. You want to recall a session on this thing? In an all analog world?
Yeah.
Fuck, man, you have to have
extensive notes.
You have to have sheets, every single position of every single pot,
right?
Every single switch, every single patch in, patch out on the patch bay, every single fucking thing. Then you got to take the tape off the rack, load it up, make sure the heads on the tape machine are clean, rewind it to the point you want to, play it through, and then if you want to do any quote unquote automation, good luck with that. That's all inside your brain, and your fucking limbs extended to try to nail the mix. And if you don't,
that's why you got all 5 band members running the board while you do the finals.
You know it, man. Yeah. So it's just not very tenable these days to do. I mean, you can do it, but I think if you're going to do that, if you want to do that kind of stuff, and this is why I like the 50s and 60s stuff. Back then, they were using such low channel count, low microphone count. The drums are often mic'd with 1 or 2 microphones. Sometimes the whole fucking band with 1 microphone.
Yeah.
Vocals
back
included.
in the day, you were talking about rooms. Back in the day, it was the rooms
totally
that you were recording.
Yeah, the rooms, the instruments, and the placement of the microphone in relation to the instruments, and how they were played. It's like, you need more bass, well, move the bass player closer, or use some trick with the figure 8 microphone to get more bass in the signal, or just tell the bass player, hey man, play fucking louder. Like that's the way it worked. And I definitely want to do a lot of stuff like that. I want to do a lot of those kind of records. But when you start getting into, I think I've worked with some bands who want the nostalgia of recording to tape, but they also want to mic all the toms, and they want to have all the overheads and distant room mics, and they want to have 3 mics on the guitar cabs and all this stuff. And it's like, dude, you can do that, but you are not going to like you have to really, it's gonna be most likely a big pain in the ass unless you really love this stuff, which I don't know if anybody loves it that much to go that far down that rabbit hole. And that's not even to speak of the technical or the operational difficulties that you are almost inherently will present themselves. Like there's some days just that channel's not working now. It was working yesterday. It's not working. Why is the EQ making this weird sound? Well, like one of the channels on the tape machine just decided to stop working, or and then so you have to pause and deal with this kind of stuff. Like working in the analog world, especially since this gear is getting a bit long on the tooth now, it's just it's a whole can of worms. So yeah, working in the digital realm helps a lot. And yeah, I love this stuff. I love having this 500 series stuff, but really it's I think it's mostly useful for, like, all right, you want to record, singer-songwriter, guitar, and vocals. You put 2 mics, those Cappy stereo pair of, nice condenser mics, small diaphragm pencil mics, with a couple of these nice Pultec EQs, and then use one of these hairball audio, both those Lolas there, the Lola and the Elements pre, or the GML, find another pre and EQ and compressor combination that works for the vocals, and then all you need to fuck with is 3 channels of super high quality shit, and you're good. And then when you go with the drums, same kind of thing. Use maybe the Cappies for your overhead, some of the fancy pre's for your kick and snare, and maybe hi-hat, the coarse stuff. Put the toms on a bunch of other pre's, and then whatever other, usually bands that are doing that type of multi-tracking with scratch tracks, usually the bass, keys, vocals, whatever auxiliary stuff, it starts off as scratch tracks, right? You make sure you get the rhythm foundation down. Everything else is scratch anyway. So, hey, I'd love to have a rack full of fucking Universal Audio gear and distressors and all this fancy shit, but it tends to be redundant, I think, most of the time, and also, you know, if you're going into a studio that has a lot of that stuff, you're going to pay for it, you know, like the overhead, and we
Of course, yeah.
really want to keep the cost down. I want to be able to record musicians here that maybe would have a tough time affording coming into a studio like that has every fucking piece of gear imaginable, you know. So yeah, keeping the cost down is important, you know. So yeah, 500 series is a great way to do that. I highly recommend. I think I was telling you, I recommend 500 series. It's awesome.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are 3 different levels to the recording studio. You have a ground level, you have a secondary level, and then you have a third level.
Yeah.
On top of that, every single level of the studio is wired for both audio and video. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
All right. So how much Ethernet did you string across this thing?
Dude, quite a bit of Ethernet. The building was wired up when we got it. It had a pretty good amount of Ethernet in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a decent amount there, and a lot of it coming into this kind of server closet we have over here. But I added quite a bit. I wanted every room to have ultimate flexibility. Really, I feel that what we are trying to do here, what we're going to do, is build a pretty strong foundation. Is do some pretty amazing shit. And I don't want to end up getting 4 or 5 years down the road and find out that, oh man, we should have built in this feature, or we missed something here, or we missed something there, and it's gonna not allow us to do what we want to be able to do. So every room was wired with basically as much flexibility and as much stuff as I could think of as feasible for the time. So that includes Ethernet.
You're gonna love this stuff.
Oh yeah,
it logs off, but it's still recording.
I figured it was probably still rolling in the background there.
This is a mobile podcast, by the way. So this is pretty cool that I could go anywhere and podcast with anybody. This is
totally, man. Yeah. No, it's a great operation, man. It's a very cool setup, and it's nice that you can. Yeah, especially in COVID times, man, you got to be on your toes and be able to move around. Never know what's going to happen, man.
So anyway, back to the video setup. I just didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh yeah, no, all good. So yeah, basically, I wanted ultimate flexibility in these rooms to be able to cater to any needs that we might have down the road, and I'm really glad that we did that because we are pushing this studio to its limits. We're starting to do video, live streaming video from multiple different rooms, multiple places, green screen stuff, and moving it beyond just making music. My original intent was to make music, and I'd like to make music videos and some content, but we're really we're getting into a lot of business making music videos. It's more just making music and the old boring recording studio model, just record a band and give them their MP3s and send them on their way. It's like we have video, we can do live streaming to the web, we can make advertisements for your company, have photos, pictures taken, promotional material, events, album releases. So having all this wiring in all these different rooms really helps in that regard. If you want to wire I don't know, some weird shit, you want to have your a KVM, keyboard video mouse, up on the upper level, wired down here on the ground level to the control room, you can do that through the Ethernet running through the wall. There's a Ethernet patch bay over there, so you could patch Ethernet from one room, any room in here, into another room in here, into a switch onto the network. We have a NAS set up, which is a effectively like a server computer. It's like our own little cloud computer type of thing. Wow. Yeah, so we can drop people's files onto our own personal cloud. It's like our own effectively unlimited Dropbox. We have something like 76 terabytes on that thing.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous amount of space.
I got 2.
Yeah, dude. Well, and that's great.
On my Dropbox, I got 2. So.
Yeah. Yep. Dude, that's pretty good. Dude, 2 terabytes on Dropbox.
I'm running 18 in the studio.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I have a 110 terabyte and 3 8 terabyte hard drives, and so like everything is saved and duplicated and it's amazing what video does. It just eats it up.
Man. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, videos
on my level, man, which isn't like you guys. Jeez,
dude. Well, we fortunately, one of the cameras that we decided to go with, our first camera that we bought is a Canon C100. And if folks are in a video out there, I'm sure they will be familiar with the C100. It is it's an amazing camera, but to put it shortly, the encoding it uses AVCHD encoding is very high quality and very low, very small file sizes. So it's like the MP3 of video. Like it's not like it's not like 12-bit raw files. But also it's not like 1 terabyte for an hour of recording or whatever it can, the insane 10 gigs for an hour, some insane numbers that they get for the these raw files. So you get beautiful looking video, and it's tiny files. The files are so small as to like you could send them to somebody on Fiverr or elance.com to edit and work with, and they're really not bad. But then we got some Blackmagic cameras, and that all went out the window. It's like it's like horrible battery life, huge fucking files. Yeah, they'll take up terabytes just in video stuff.
So you guys just recently did a live streaming event with 30 bands, right, at HempFest?
That was huge. Yeah.
So first of all, the decision to do that, was that a collaboration between Dean, Josh, and Easy Street? Were they the main sponsors for this event? What did you guys do? How did you do that?
Well, the decision to do it rested a bit on the aforementioned parties, but no. So one of our top superstar all-star employee / core group members, we consider him part of the M.O.B family here, Siegfried, who you're familiar with.
Right.
His band played at HempFest years ago, and Vivian McPeak, the main dude down there, just loved his band, so they started doing the whole internet, Facebooky, whatever, social media thing together, and interlocked in this dance. Siegfried saw that HempFest was in trouble, and Vivian had made a post about how, hey, we're not doing it this year. The future of HempFest is in jeopardy. If anybody has ideas, we're thinking about doing it some kind of live streaming virtual thing, but basically just like put out a call for throw us your ideas. And Siegfried, being the intrepid person that he is, decided to contact Vivian and say, hey man, we got this amazing recording studio, we're doing a lot of live streams, we have the ability to record bands, we're all audio guys, so we can make it sound really good, we got this video equipment, and come check the place out, see what you think. So he scheduled a meeting. Vivian came down, check it out, loved it. Long story short, did some talks, did some meetings, make sure, can we pull this off logistically with what they want to do versus what our capabilities are. And we decided to move forward, and we did it. And I think we killed it, man. It was a lot of fun. There was, some, I would say, relatively minor technical issues, which are to be expected with such a large production on kind of a tight timetable. But it was a ton of fun. A lot of great content, a lot of great connections were made.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, and it also made us kind of up our game. There was a few blind spots that we noticed for just minor things. Some of the lighting issues that we'd had on previous live streams. We noticed, the lighting wasn't to the standard that we would like to do for something like HempFest. We need to up our game with the lighting. We need better communications, so like a push-to-talk radio communication system, so that we can all be on the same page with a larger staff.
Well, yeah, you're doing 10 bands a day. Good Lord, man.
Yeah.
They're just stacking up out in the parking lot.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and the HempFest people are going to want to have their own communications protocol, so they have their own band frequency that they talk on. We don't need to hear everything that's going on in their internal dialogue, and they don't need to hear all of our techie shit. They don't care when a camera angle is changing or something.
Or if you got to move that snare mic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we had a couple different radio bands set up, and again, without going too far into the geeky shit, we had a green screen. That was really
I saw
cool.
that. Was that Elliott Bay that you were broadcasting on that thing?
Yeah, man.
Projecting, pardon me.
Went down to Myrtle Edwards Park and got some footage of the park, down there where they normally do HempFest. And so we were able to put people on the green screen and and make it look like they were at Myrtle Edwards Park. And so we had a lot of fun with that.
How about the cloud of smoke from all the weed being smoked?
I think we took care of that in-house. That was an extra special effect. Yeah. We just put Zach up there and posted him up. He took care of that problem. Yeah, but it was a really great experience. It was a lot of fun. We're looking forward to working with those guys in the future. And it's also, I think I was telling you out here, that it was, what I love about this live streaming stuff specifically, it reminds me of the same vibe that I would get when I first started doing front of house sound mixing, because I was, like I was saying, I always kind of grew up doing studio stuff where it's a very controlled environment. If you fuck up, you just hit the go back undo button and do it again, and it's like not a big deal. And in a way, that has its own great thing about it, because it frees you to be more experimental and try out weird shit. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You just redo it. But in the front of house live world, it's like in the moment. It's like you got to do this shit now, and if something goes wrong, it's you can't undo it. You can't reverse time and go back. And if something goes wrong, you have to fix it right now. And it's very exciting in that world. And I remember when I first started doing front of house sound, it was like, yeah, it was like that. It was exciting and new and fast paced, and the pressure you felt under the gun, and then when you accomplish it, it was like it's over, and that happened, and it's just you can go home. You don't have to think about, I have to do these overdubs and what could I do to make it better. It's like it's done. That's it. And this podcasting live streaming world is a lot like that, man. As I'm sure you know, there's some element of post production you can do, but for the most part, it's like it's literally like when we do live broadcasts here. Some folks will say they do live broadcasts, but it's like Saturday Night Live.
Right.
It's like it's pre-recorded, it's day of, and then they pump it out. But it's really edited and post-produced. We don't do that, man. It was straight live, directly to the web, like right there on the spot. And, we're a bunch of audio guys, and we're trying to basically run a broadcasting studio, and we have no fucking clue what we're doing, We're just kind of like flying by the seat of our pants, and it was so much fun, man. It was so much fucking fun, and I think we got a really good system together. We had the manpower to pull it off, so we had, really two people on audio detail, one person, dedicated audio guy who I trust with my audio life, this guy, Pete Sams, who's fucking amazing. Anybody who's ever
running that on the Midas board upstairs?
He was on the Midas, yeah. Yep. And anybody who's ever played in a top 40s band in Seattle or Tacoma or the general area probably knows Pete Sams, and he, at least he's had a hand in one of these shows providing a PA system or audio engineer. So we had him on audio. Our dude James Pink switching video. Siegfried basically running the whole show, coordinating with everybody. Me kind of similar stuff, doing a little audio, a little video, a little camera work. Zach on camera. People downstairs coordinating. Our marketing person here. When you have that kind of staff behind it, it's like, man, it sure makes it much more smooth and also a lot more fun. It's a team effort, and again, it's fast paced, and yeah, it was a blast, man. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot of hard work, man. We busted our asses for weeks just setting up for it, just making sure we were all technically ready. But it was some of the most rewarding, probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done here.
Josh said you picked up a lot of business from that.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of good exposure.
Which was the point, right? I mean, that was one of the points.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, we... well, I don't know how appropriate it is to say on wax, but we were basically working for peanuts. But we love HempFest, what they're doing, and we it was a community thing that was very rewarding. We felt great about it. They felt great about it. We liked their vibe. We liked what they're doing, and it was just a you can't always place a monetary value. There's some things that are just you just can't place a value on them, right, in terms of numbers and shit like that, And I think this was one of those scenarios where I think we got some good business from it, and it will be a great promotional material or whatever, and we'll probably bring in a lot of folks in the future. But I don't know, it was a really special thing. It was something. It was something beautiful. you know.
Well, it's now that Hempfest is mainstream and it's not part of the rebellion anymore.
Yeah, right. Oh man, those guys are still DIY punk rock ethos as they've ever been, and
that's awesome. Yeah,
like I said, man, punk rock ethos has always had a special place in my heart, and you know it when you see it, and those guys embody that shit. It's the old school Seattle vibe, or at least old school for me. I mean, I'm not that old, but it's like the 90s Seattle kind of comeuppance of the music scene, at least in the 90s incarnation, where it was just it was almost like anti of the like California LA thing that was happening, the Hollywood thing. It was like, it's cool to not be cool, and like the more cool you are, the more of just kind of a poser and lame you are. Like, these guys are just like, they're real, they're down to earth, they're not trying to be fucking cool, and in as much as they can avoid being corporate, I think they are, like, of course, to pull off the level of what they're normally doing, this huge festival with all these moving parts. You gotta have money. It's a huge budget to pull that off. So I think in as much as it is possible to not, not
this streamlined it for them, didn't it? Doing it this way saved them a lot of expense.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But it wasn't the same. Like Vivian was saying, we were talking down here in our black room, tracking room afterwards, and he had been doing this for something like 30 years. And he was saying every single year, we're outdoors, we're intense, we're, working as this giant team to pull off this massive thing. We're sometimes camping in the places because people work so hard during the day, just going home and getting sleep isn't feasible. So they end up just busting their asses for weeks on end to pull this off. And then it's a completely different vibe coming here and doing it. And, I think all of us are experiencing that to some extent. Like, our lives are kind of being upended right now. This is 2020 in the midst of this pandemic thing happening with COVID. And so, we're all adjusting to it. But I could sense in Vivian and I think the other folks there some kind of like longing for the ability to do that main fest. And I think all of us are feeling that, man. Like,
I lost a lot of gigs this summer.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of gigs,
Yeah.
I was planning on it, playing out and having fun, but that ain't going to happen, so.
Oh, yeah, just going out to, like, can you just, like, think, it almost seems like a long lost, just going to a show, standing outside on a lawn and watching a band play on a stage, like.
Yeah.
It's, for all of us now, it's been damn near a year, going on, close to a year since we've seen that,
Right.
And, yeah, things like Hempfest are just none of this shit has been happening. And so I think there was some longing for that. But it was also exciting in its own right. And I think everybody should use this as an opportunity to explore some new things, some new branches of the decision tree. And I think it's creating a lot of possibility. I think there's a great silver lining to it, especially if you're looking for a silver lining. I think there's a lot of new, as many as a lot of old opportunities or traditional opportunities of closing off. For every door that closes, another one opens. I think there's a lot of great opportunity and interesting things to explore out there right now. And so, it's bittersweet, man, on a lot of levels. I think for them it was bittersweet. For us, it was just sweet, man. It was fucking great.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So how about some contact info? Anybody who wants to come in, record, shoot a video?
Yeah, mobstudios.com. We are on Facebook.
Break out the card, brah.
Well, I was going to say, we just got a phone number. We were operating off my personal phone number for a long time. But yeah, we just got a phone number. But in lieu of that, and I will be looking it up here as I'm speaking.
Well, everybody can enjoy Bruno Mars in the background while we're.
Yep. We got. Oh, yeah, that's part of the wiring system too, man. We got.
Yeah, I like the in-house music system. It's great.
Totally, man. Yeah, speakers in every room.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, mobstudios.com. Let's see. I will look up the phone number. We're on Instagram. I think it's at Official Mob Studios. I don't know. I don't really do the social media thing.
That's Gina's job, right?
That is Gina. Yep, she is.
I understand she's starting to do some singing here too.
Dude, have you heard her stuff?
No, but my friend Jack said, "Hey, man, you know the guys at the M.O.B studio?" And I said, "Yeah, those guys are my friends." And he said, "Yeah, well, I think it's his friend Gina, or Jack's a keyboard player." He said that she's working there, and she's just started doing some work at the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, well, she hasn't been recording the stuff. Any of the stuff that you will hear right now, to my knowledge, hasn't been recorded here yet. But Siegfried, our again, just superstar, all arounder type of guy, engineer and manager, has been recording her. It's his sister, and dude, it's amazing stuff, man. Really, 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 really good stuff.
Is she writing the music?
I believe she's writing the vocals, and I don't know who's taking part in what parts of the writing. I believe Siegfried is doing a lot of the arranging.
Yeah.
I know he's done a lot of the guitar stuff, and he's a drummer, and he's dabbling in guitar. But I'm really not sure where the credit goes to on that. But I think it's a collaborative brother-sister effort.
Trust me, drummers are good arrangers.
Oh yeah, man. Got it. That's a foundation of music, man. You got to understand it from the ground up. And their dad also is an amazing musician.
There you go.
Great dude. So yeah, it's a very musical family, and so she's doing marketing for us. So you can find us on all the standard avenues. I don't know what the fuck, honestly.
Yeah.
So look up M.O.B Studios.
Yeah. M.O.B.
Yeah.
Studios.
M.O.B Studios, and our phone number, our newfangled phone number, is 206-899-5447.
Nice. All right, Evan. Been great. Evan Kolpak, got it right.
Yep, there you go, brother. That's it.
Oh, it's a great interview, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Jones, I bid you adieu. Cool.
What's Dr. Jones?
Dr. Jones from Indiana Jones. Remember?
Oh.
Where's the mic still on? This is really cool. So when Indiana is down in the pit, right? And the I forget the name of the French paleontologist, or I'm sorry, the French
archaeologist.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The French archaeologists, as they're covering up the pit that they're in, he goes, "Dr. Jones, I bid you adieu," and then he locks him in.
Nice.
You remember that first one, right?
Dude, I've seen it. I don't remember it live.
Hey, you want more Mack-n-Cheese? Mack-n-Cheesemusic.blog, on YouTube at Brian at Mack-n-Cheese, Instagram and Twitter, www.mackandcheese.com. And thank you, Anchor.fm, for hosting this podcast. Take it away, Bruno.
They call it a Royale with cheese.